Hey guys, welcome to Bad Movies, and in this episode I'm going to be talking about The Swarm with Michael Caine and a bunch of other actors, and just yeah. Now, The Swarm is a movie that honestly felt like it was never going to end. It actually took me 2 days to watch the movie and write this review, and there are two reasons for that. One, because there was so much that I wanted to say that I had to stop the movie every 5 minutes or so and write down my points. And two, because this movie is so long. The original version is around 2 hours, which, to be honest, is probably 2 hours too long. But when they released the DVD version, they added an additional 40 minutes of footage for some reason. But it actually makes sense when you think about it, because when you watch this movie, there are entire scenes, characters, and subplots that could be cut out of this movie easily, and it would not affect the plot at all. I'm being serious. This thing is just a giant cinematic train wreck. I would like to say that this is one of those movies that's so bad it's good, but it's not. This movie is just so long and boring that it's a challenge just to make it through the whole thing. Now, The Swarm is supposed to be a horror movie about a giant swarm of killer bees, so I'm gonna do my best to try and resist making any Nicolas Cage jokes. It's gonna be hard. So the movie starts off with a bunch of soldiers, I guess, checking out this underground base. And when they get inside, they find out that everybody is dead. And I just love how long this takes. They're really nailing it in that everybody's dead. We get it. I think my first clue must have been the lifeless bodies all over the place. So then some more soldiers show up and Michael Caine just kind of casually strolls into the room. Shit, no turning back now, Mike. So they search him and they don't really find anything except his wallet and a leather pouch full of sunflower seeds. So the Major orders 2 helicopters to go check out a large mass that's traveling at 7 miles per hour. The pilots spot this giant black mass and decide just to fly right into it. And guess what? It's bees. Millions and millions of bees. Somehow the bees manage to throw the helicopter out of control, and it crashes and they die. Now the second helicopter is stuck in the bee swarm, and I mean, just look at this. Isn't this the most terrifying thing you've ever seen? Again, somehow the bees cause them to lose power, and that helicopter crashes, and they all die too. This next scene is pretty hilarious. It's just this big argument between Michael Caine and the Major, and the Major's like, "You're crazy. That swarm of killer bees isn't supposed to be here for another 10 years. Even though he just witnessed 2 of his helicopters being attacked by a massive swarm of bees. I mean, shit. You can't put 2 and 2 together, and you're a major in the military. I mean, were things this different back in the 70s? Were people this clueless? How many drugs are floating around? I'm pretty sure our marijuana is like, what, 300 times stronger now than it was back then. But I don't know what I was trying to do there. What was I talking about? What movie is this? Meanwhile, this family is going for a picnic, but there's all these bees around, so she just starts spraying this, I guess, bug spray at them. And let's just watch some of this acting.
I got enough. You're gonna wreck the food. I am hungry.
Wow. I mean, did you marry a robot? Anyways, this huge swarm of bees comes flying out of a tree and kills both parents, but the kid manages to get away in the car. Now, I gotta give the movie some credit for using real bees in some of these scenes. I mean, I could only imagine how much of a pain in the ass it would have been working on that set. You know, you'd have to make sure that no one was allergic to bee stings. You'd have to make sure all the actors were completely fine with just being covered in bees. You'd have to get, a bee wrangler. Anyways, the kid drives into town where they're about to have their annual flower festival. I know what you're thinking. The flower festival is going to attract the bees, but I'm just going to tell you right now, there's no payoff there at all. We don't even get to see the festival. That probably would have been more entertaining than the rest of this movie. Meanwhile, the White House decides to put Michael Caine in charge of this entire operation with no limit to his authority. So his first order of business is to get back his pouch of sunflower seeds. Because, I mean, that's the main priority here. Get this man his seeds. Can't work under these conditions. God damn it! Do I have any seeds? So they go visit the kid from the picnic, and he's just completely losing his shit and hallucinating that there's this giant bee in the room. And it's at this point in the movie that you realize just how ridiculous this whole thing is gonna get. You know, okay, you know what? Let's just stop for a second, okay? Just stop everything, please. Man. You know, can I just have a minute, please? Just 1 minute. I'll be right back. So Michael Caine just tells the kid to reach out and the bee will disappear. And that's it. It works. Then Michael Caine says that he's got to leave? Really? That's it? That you just came all this way to tell the kid to stretch his arm out? That's the cure for hallucinations, apparently? And even still, you don't have any questions that you want to ask him? Maybe just write down a quick report on where the bees came from, what he saw, anything like that? You know, you're already there. Take 5 more minutes. So they go to the scene where the attack happened, and Michael Caine finds these small little pieces of a plastic cup, and he thinks that the bees did it. Like, what does that even mean? You find pieces of trash in a public park, and you automatically assume that the bees did it? Have you been to a park before? Ever? So they fly in another doctor, Dr. Krim, and after eating a few of Michael Caine's magical sunflower seeds, he's ready to work. The kid's friends show up, and he leaves with them to go find the hive of the deadly bees. Never mind the fact that his parents just died. I guess he's over that whole thing already. So this is where the hive is, at the scene of the deadly picnic attack. You mean to tell me the military didn't see anything when they were just So the kids come back with Molotov cocktails and light up the hive. Of course, this drives the bees nuts and they chase after the kids, but it's okay because the kids are just gonna hide under these trash cans. Never mind the fact that the bees can just wait outside of the trash cans. So the bees do just that. They wait outside of the trash cans for a few seconds before the editor reverses the film and the swarm goes away. Michael Caine says it's now heading for the town, even though the swarm looks like it's going in 3 different directions. Now I'm going to take the time to mention this subplot, which really has no point at all. Again, I'm serious, no point at all. For some reason, there's a few scenes in here where different guys profess their love to this one character who we rarely see and doesn't do anything. I mean, what is this shit? I don't care about any of these characters. They're not developed, and they're not integral to the plot at all. They're just people that live in the town. Seriously, watching these scenes, it takes you right out of the story. It's almost like watching a completely different movie. You could probably take each one of these scenes, cut it together, and make a short film that really, you know, has no reference to the swarm at all. The bees show up at the school and kill a bunch of kids in slow motion. I guess that's supposed to make it dramatic. Hey, wait a minute. That's the random kid with the lollipop from earlier. Oh no, they couldn't have killed him. Not the character with no dialogue and about 5 seconds of total screen time. I get way too connected to those types of characters. I don't think I can watch this anymore. And once again, let's just watch some of this magnificent acting. So the swarm is attacking the whole town now, and I have to say this shot looks pretty cool until it gets to this. Yes, that makes sense. You're being stung by a bunch of bees, so why not just throw yourself through a glass window as well? I'm sure that's gonna make the situation better. So the other doctor, Helena, got stung and she starts hallucinating, seeing bees in Michael Caine's eyes. By the way, at this point, we're about an hour and 15 minutes into the movie. So that means we got what, like another hour and 15 minutes left? Okay, so I guess the swarm leaves the city, and then we get another terrible scene between Michael Caine and the Major, where the Major basically says, we gotta evacuate the whole city because we captured some of the bees, so if the other bees find out that we kidnapped some of their friends, they're gonna come back and try and find their friends. Then the kid tells Michael Caine that he firebombed the hive. And you know what? I'm just gonna get this out of the way right now. Why is this kid always sweating? Seriously, if you go back from this point, the only scenes where this kid is not literally dripping with sweat is the first scene where the swarm kills his robot parents and the hospital scene which just happened. So at some point between the kid being inside the hospital and running outside of the hospital, his sweat glands just decided to get hardcore. I mean, I guess that's puberty for you. Either that or this kid is suffering from one hell of a cocaine withdrawal. So Michael Caine does an interview with a news reporter who doesn't even know how to hold a mic. I guess since so many people died in the bee attack that they're just leaving the bodies outside in black body bags under the sun. I'm sure that smells nice. Then we have this scene between a pregnant lady and her doctor, and nothing happens here at all. I guess at the end it kind of implies that the doctor is in love with her or something, but who cares? I mean, who the hell is this woman in the first place? I don't even know who this is. I actually had to stop and rewind the movie to find that, oh yeah, she's the waitress from the diner that we hardly ever saw. Both her and the doctor briefly appeared twice and had probably 4, maybe 5 lines of dialogue, so I mean, how could I forget these memorable characters? So they're evacuating the town now, and these two guys are fighting over who gets to carry Maureen's luggage because they're in love with her for some reason. Again, nobody cares. That night, after the town is evacuated, Michael Caine and Helena go for a stroll downtown, but I mean, they're kind of dressed up as if this is some kind of a date or something. Yes, how romantically awkward would that be? You know, it's so pretty out here at night. Hey, here's the window where that guy threw himself through and died on the floor. Remember that? That happened a few hours ago. Yeah. So, hey, you want to go see if Arby's is still open? Meanwhile, on the train to a bee-free zone, Bee lands on the hand of the conductor, and as soon as he swats it, the swarm shows up, and during the hysteria, the conductor hits the accelerator, and the train flies off the tracks. I actually really like this part because I think it's pretty hilarious. People are flying out of the train cars, and for some reason, a fire starts inside of one. How? And then when they reach the bottom, they all explode because, I mean, of course, why not? At least there's some action in this movie, and it's a good thing this happened because it really cuts down the amount of characters that we're forced to sit and watch who don't affect the plot at all. Seriously, just look at this list of characters. I mean, is this a movie or a circus? So meanwhile, back at the base, they've engineered some kind of poison pellets to pour onto the bees, so they start pouring the pellets out of the helicopters. Michael Caine says that they're not eating the pellets. Really? You can see that far with those binoculars? You can hold them that steady in a helicopter and see that closely to tell if a bee is eating something? And Sweaty Kid is in the hospital bed again. Seriously, it just came out of nowhere. And then he dies. Of course, in the next scene, they explain that, oh, well, some people have a fatal relapse after being stung, which explains, you know, why the kid was sweating so much and why he died. Okay, you know what? I want to read this script. Seriously, if any of you can find it online somewhere, please post it to my Facebook page. I just want to leaf through it to see what was in there. Now they've discovered that the swarm is heading for 46 towns, so they're discussing evacuating those towns. One of the doctors, I don't even know how many there are at this point, whatever, goes to a power plant and tells them to shut down because the bees are coming, but the manager of the power plant gets in a huge argument with him And while they're arguing, of course, they're all attacked by the swarm. And as you'd expect, this causes the entire power plant to explode and it wipes out a whole city. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I feel kind of weird when they refer to the bees in this movie simply as the Africans. Like, I understand that they're a swarm of Africanized killer bees, but referring to them just as the Africans sounds kind of weird in certain situations.
Your Dr. Hubbard was out collecting live Africans. He's brought them back to the complex.
From now on, the war against the Africans will be under military direction.
The government turns to its last resort. Now, you think it'd be something really drastic, like dropping a bomb or something like that, but nope. It's just a few guys with flamethrowers. Yeah, I'm sure this will do the trick. 9 people with flamethrowers versus over 1 billion bees. They'll get this done in no time. Here's another sequence that makes no sense. First it's nighttime, then an ambulance driver gets attacked by bees, and then it's daytime, and then it's nighttime again, it crashes and explodes. I mean, everything explodes. The ambulance explodes, the store explodes, the chairs explode. It's weird because it looks like they tried day for night in some of the shots, but in other shots they just didn't care anymore. So Helena has a relapse from her bee sting and starts seeing giant bees as well. Michael Caine discovers that it was the alarm system from the bunker that attracted the bees in the first place. So they're gonna try and use this alarm to get rid of the bees. Apparently they picked the dumbest people to be in charge of the flamethrowers. Hey, here's an idea. Maybe you guys shouldn't have been using flamethrowers around a truck labeled flammable in the first place. I mean, why would you come back into the building if you're covered in bees and then proceed to go into the elevator? Now the other idiots decide to start lighting the building on fire while they're still inside because, you know, safety first. I'm sure all the other people in the building would rather burn to death instead of trying to avoid the bees. They dump a bunch of oil into the Gulf of Mexico and then, I don't know, play the signal from a bunch of flotation devices and all the bees come. So then they just launch rockets into the Gulf, which sets the whole thing on fire. Then when Helena asks Michael Caine if it's over, he says,
I don't know. But we did gain time. If we use it wisely, and if we're lucky, the world might just survive.
What the f*** does that even mean? Helena's expression pretty much sums it up perfectly. Even she's like, seriously, dude? So what now? Do we have to keep doing this every time there's a bee attack? You know what? Who cares? It's over. I'm finally done. And I managed to make it through the whole thing without making one Nicolas Cage joke, which was pretty hard. Even the parts without the bees, like at the end where they're burning the whole city to the ground. I kept thinking, wouldn't it be funny if Nicolas Cage showed up after and was like,
how'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
I tried. You've got to be prepared to just throw away 2.5 hours of your life if you're going to watch this thing. For me, that's okay. I mean, I've wasted countless hours on bad movies, but I never feel like I'm wasting them because then I get to do the show, and then you guys get to watch the show, and then I get like a few bucks? Holy shit, I've wasted the past 4 years of my life. I could have spent that time doing something so much more productive.